and welcome back to Getting Started Lessons of Expivi. In this lesson, we are going through how to set up a product online and how you can prepare your 3D models to upload them on Expivi's platform and set up a basic configuration for the variations of a product. I'm using Blender as the 3D modeling software inside here for the product that I have. And it doesn't matter whether you are using Blender or any other type of 3D modeling software. As long as you can export your models with polygons or as a 3D format for a wide variety that we support, you are able to export and import it to Expivi. I'm going to show you a simple product of a pod that has two different types, which are all drawn in 3D. We have the type 1 and type 2. The type 1 is a little thinner, and a little bigger version, the type 2. Once you have drawn your 3D model, before we import it to the Expivi platform, we need to do a little bit of work on how the product and its components are structured. That makes it simpler to set up the configuration on Expivi. As you can see, I have two different versions over here. I have type 1 and type 2 and type 2, and I have actually grouped each one of them into different nodes. So inside the type 1, I have the inner shell of the pod and I have the outer shell separated, and then I have another group which is the second one, and this one also has the inner shell and the outer shell separated. So this is doing this grouping of the models and of the components of the parts gives us it makes it simple to import the 3D model and directly set up the configurations on the variations very simply. A few things that you need to keep in mind is that your product has to have the center point at 0 point, so 0, 0, 0 inside the wall space. So my product should actually not be centered at some other places that you have, but all of the different options and variations that you have should be centered at the center of the scene and also be centered at the position that they need to be. Secondly, you need to check whether you have the back face cooling correctly. Back face cooling is where you have the normals incorrect. So imagine if I go into here and I select a few faces on the model, I would invert the normals. You can see that it will that these two faces become invisible in the model. And the reason for that is that the normals are pointing in the wrong direction. So by flipping the normals, I can correct them and make sure that the model has the correct normals for every direction to point at. And that gives you a nice smooth model without any issues. A second thing to take note is that Expivi uses meters as units, so when you export your model or when you're drawing, it's good to keep in mind that the scaling of a model meters should be used as units. Another thing are the UVs. So if you're going to texture your models and put some texture on top of them, it is very important to have the correct UVs on the model itself. So inside here, the model is actually UV, so you can see all of the different UVs, and that's actually the pattern on the model of how the image is placed on top of the 3D surface. And when you have checked all of these different options, you can go on and export your 3D model to prepare and set and import it on Expivi platform. So I'm going to choose FVX. FVX is a very good format to export to because it supports all of different kind of properties that you would need, like keeping the hierarchy inside the model, and to re-export it since I had duplicated some parts. So I was saying the FX file, it supports the hierarchy or the model tree. So when you import a 3D model, the hierarchy of the nodes are kept intact, all of the UVs and the model format, they are all kept intact. And it's a very good format, it's a standard for the game industry as well to use. So I have exported my 3D model to Expivi format. And if you're using actually CAD drawing software, a lot of times you're also able to export to a triangulated format or a 3D format like OBJ, Collada. Preferably you need to export it to a model that keeps the model hierarchy or the model tree intact. If that's not possible, it's also not a problem because you can do all of these groupings inside Expivi platform as well. So when you have exported your 3D model, we are going back to the admin panel when we can add a new product under the catalog and then the catalog list where all of our products are available inside there, and then we select the add button and add a new product. Next, after putting the basic information about the product, we're going to the configuration. We will upload the 3D model and set up the basic configuration for the variations of the two different types that we had. So it starts by importing using the import wizard. Inside here you can import your 3D model. And if there are any images that you want to, you can just drag and drop into it. And if there are some textures that need to be uploaded along with the model, you can do them as well. Keep in mind that embedded media is not supported, so you cannot embed the images or the textures inside the 3D model itself. You need to upload them separately next to it. And if you have some specific structure for the folder that you want to keep intact in order for the texture paths to be correct when uploading, you can create a zip file of the entire model along with all of the textures and just upload the zip file inside here. So when I have added my 3D model, I upload all of the files that I have placed inside here. When the upload is finished and the system detects a 3D file inside there, I can select next. A note inside here is that you can import only one 3D file at a time. So you cannot place two 3D files like two FBX files inside here at the same time. You can import only one 3D file at a time. Next, we can import the 3D model as a configurable model or as a plain model. So for the configurable model, we are going to have a look into that in a second. And a plain model means that you just import the 3D model without creating automatically a configuration on top of that. So the plain model actually just imports a model. We say whether we want to reuse materials. If you have deleted the model and you are re-importing the model again inside the platform, you can reuse those materials that you had imported previously on the same project, and where the materials should be uploaded to, so you can create different folders for different materials that are imported through 3D files. You can do the same with all of the textures that belong to it. I'm going to create a new folder for it, calling pottery for both the textures. There are no textures in here, but I'm setting the folder name anyway, and then I press import. So the model is imported. I can view the model tree of what I have imported through the view, and it shows me what is being imported through the model. Next, to set up the variations and the configuration, we go to the model tree. Remember, everything is from left to right. So after the import, we go to the model tree. And model tree gives you a raw representation of what you have uploaded and what components are available inside the 3D model. You can also change the units inside here. If you have imported a model that doesn't have the right scaling, you can change that inside here, but since we are using meter and the correct units that are set there by default, you directly also see the model in the correct size. And then we have all of the different parts that we had defined inside the model. So you can zoom, you can enable and disable the viewing of each part. And by clicking the left mouse button on each part, it will also automatically select the parts that are that you have selected from the C. So inside this left part where you have the model tree, we have all of the groupings that we had created previously inside our 3D modeling software, and we can start actually creating a configuration. Since we are going to set up the camera and the lamps inside the showcase in the later lessons, I'm going to remove those because they are not used inside the showcase. So pressing the left mouse button on the three dots will open up the options that you have. Next, I have the two groups. I have the type 1 and type 2. In order to create a variation configuration for these two, I need to add a question. So on the top root node, I add a new question by clicking the right mouse button on the three dots. I go to the append, I append the question. So from here, I can select the number of questions that I have had previously. I'm creating a new question, so I'm going to call it pod type and add the node. You can see a question being created inside here. From here, I can pick up the nodes I want to be put under that question. So I have two different objects that are selectable, the type 1 and the type 2 inside there. And I can multi-select multiple types by holding down the control button on the keyboard and select the multiple nodes. I can just drag and drop them inside the question. Now we have two different options under here, but we still need to define for the system which of these groupings inside this category that we just created, which is just a question, are the options that are going to be the variation of this particular object. So I can do that by two ways. I can either add an answer inside the question, or I can change the type of the node that has been already imported. So I can just click and edit the type of this node and create an option node, which is the answer. Inside here, I'm going to call it type 1. Click the apply, so it will change the type of the node to option. And also do the same with the second part of the model. So I'm going to edit it, create answer, change it to answer, and call it type 2, which is also the option. So you can automatically directly see the results of the configurations that you have set. Right now, with that I have actually created two different variations of the product. I have the type 1 and I have the type 2. You can instantly see which product or which option is selected directly inside there, and I can choose from them. So once I have set up the model tree the way that I want, I have created all of the different variations for my product. I can save the changes. This doesn't generate the configuration yet, it just saves the model tree for me. In order to generate the configuration, we need to click the generate configuration. So as simple as that, the configurator has now generated everything I need for this particular product with the two variations that I have inside it. That means that it has generated an attribute for me. And the way that it does that is actually that it goes through the model tree and sees, hey, I have one pod type and I have two different options under there. So it will create if we create an attribute for that, it will create a question of pod type, two different attributes, two different options underneath that, and also create all of the variations for the components. So it sees that there is a type 1 of the product and a type 2. And the variations for that is pod type type 2, and the variation for this one is the pod type type 1. And all of these are actually from the model tree, generated automatically from model tree. So as soon as I change something, you don't need to define any configuration or any variations anymore for all of the different variations that you have. Once you export your 3D model or export your configuration setup inside here, it will generate the graph, the attributes, the components, material groups, and everything else that you have set up inside here. Next, you can review your configurations that you have created inside the graph. You You can also again change the graph inside here by just simple drag and drop if you need to do the configurations inside a more visual way of how the configuration is set up. And also save and export the configuration, which will again export from here and override and create the configurations automatically for all of the different attributes and all of the different components that are inside the product automatically. Inside here, I can actually, inside the graph, I can see what I have created so far. So the model tree has gone through the model. It says that I have a category pod type, and then we have the type 1 and type 2, and underneath of each of these options, I had assigned two different meshes, or the two different part of the 3D models that are connected to each type. And this is also actually automatically generated again from the model tree. So if I just right mouse click on each node, I get all of the different options that are available for it, and I can see that, for example, the inner share is connected to this part of the 3D model. So this is the model tree of the imported file. I can see where this asset, where it is connected to each part of the 3D model. And it gives you a simple overview of all of the different variations that you have. So, setting up a variation and different products or different options and attributes for a product is as simple as that. It doesn't matter whether you have 10 different variations in here or you have 10 different questions that you have. You can simply just add multiple questions over here. You can also add other question under this option. So for example, imagine I have a category, I have option, and under that option, and then I have other questions. So you can do nested questions and answers for each variation that you have. And that's basically as simple as that, the way that you set up a product configuration for your product. So inside the cell or inside the showcase where we will go through in the next chapter or in the next lesson, you can directly see that we have set up a configuration for the product. But before closing this lesson, I'm going also to show you how you can actually automate this entire process directly from your 3D model. That means when I import my 3D model, it will actually also generate the model tree that it would require for the configuration and generate everything else to the next step as well. So you only need to import the 3D model and do nothing more inside the model tree, not even setting up the groupings inside here. And the way that you do that, I'm going to first delete this model. And now, right now, it has deleted my model tree. So now it's there are no results anymore. My graph is removed. My options are kept because we remove a model, we don't want to remove the work that has been done on the attributes. But all of the components are removed as well because they were connected to the 3D model. And I'm going to re-import my 3D model from the 3D file again, while having set up the configurations directly inside the model tree that I have inside my 3D software, 3D modeling software. So you see here, I have already had the type 1 and type 2. Now imagine that I want to set up that configuration that I had done inside the model tree directly inside here. That's possible as well. And we do that by using a naming convention for every model. So to do that, I first need to create a question inside my model tree. I can do that by using an empty node or a dummy node in some other software, 3D software modeling software that is called, and use a naming convention to define the option that I have. So the naming convention of that, so imagine the name of my question would be pod, and then the naming convention is to add category at the end of it. So this will actually create a question for me inside the platform when I import the model. So it will be pod category. So let's go back to see here whether it was the pod type. And then I'm going to put these two nodes under that. So the way, just as I did it inside the platform, I can do that already inside my 3D model. So I can set up the same thing that I had over there. The only difference is that I need to set up the correct naming conventions so that the configurator can actually detect those names and import, create the complete configuration automatically. So the path, I'm going to call it actually path type. So that's my question, and adding a category at the end will define this as a question. And then for my type 1 and type 2, I need to also create a naming convention for them so that the system can actually detect them as two options that are under this category. So for type 1, I'm going to rename it to type 1 option. So again, the option is the naming convention that we use for the detection. So as simple as that, actually, inside my 3D model, when I'm drawing, I can use this workflow for every option that I have and every variations that I have, draw my 3D model the way I want, follow the correct model tree that I want for my product, and use a category and option underneath under each one of them to generate the model, to generate the configuration automatically when the model is imported. So when I go and save again this model, I'm going to export it to FX again, and now this time I'm going to call it as configurable. It's been exported to an FX file again, so now I have the configurable version. And that means that it's actually, I have set up all of the different naming conventions for my model tree so that it would actually generate all of the different configurations for me automatically. So I'm going back to here, and actually I'm going to remove this product and create a new one to have a clean project so you can actually see how the process goes when you have a new product where the 3D model already contains all the configurations. So then again, I'm going to the configuration, going through the import wizard once more, and from my exported model, so the configurable one that I just exported, I'm going to put it over there, upload it, next. And this time I'm going to select import as configurable. So that means that the configuration is already set on my product, on my 3D model. And then I'm going to choose the folder that I had created previously, so it would actually put it in the same folder and not over create more folders, and leave this one just as it is, as there are no textures imported with this along with this model. And then I import it. So what now actually happens is that the system has gone through this model tree and has detected all of the different variations that I had and generated the graph actually automatically for me. So as simple as of that, I have now actually automatically got a pod type and two different variations inside that I can select from. So I wouldn't need even to do any extra work inside here. So that means I have the graph, all of the attributes automatically generated for me. So going back to here, I had called this pod type and then the category. So it generates an attribute question for that. And then I have the type 1 option, type 2 option, had generated type 1 and type 2 option. And automatically connected all of the different meshes that are underneath of each node, automatically connected those assets to those options as well. So I have all of my graph, configuration graph, I have my attributes, and again, I have all of my components generated automatically for me. So I wouldn't have to go and define every variation inside here. So with that, this lesson comes to an end. I hope it has given you a simple but effective overview of how the configuration works and how you can define different variations inside the 3D model and how you can export it and import it on Expivi platform to set up a simple configuration in just a few minutes. Thank you, and until next time.